Welcome back to our second film on our journey 11 weeks, 5 countries and 25,000 miles as we move from Thailand into Laos. We crossed the border at Chiang Khong at a new crossing opened at the end of 2013. The processing is quite elaborate with many labour-intensive steps, each done with a smile and a charge. Then it's on a double-decker bus to go down to Soi San to join our boat for a 2-day trip down the mighty Mekong to Luang Prabang. The Mekong, the world's 12th largest river, running over 4,000 kilometres from Tibet to Vietnam. It starts out pretty sunny, but actually the weather is not as warm in late January as we had hoped. In fact, it's the coldest winter for 10 years.
Right, Simon, tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling pretty cold at the moment.
So how you really feel?
Oh, how I'm really bloody cold.
Our 2-day journey is broken up with visits to local communities brought together by the government to share resources. The living is, by our standards, fairly basic, houses on stilts made of wood and bamboo. But it's a good opportunity to try out the local rice whiskey, which certainly packs a punch. And then move through the village to inspect and then to barter for a range of tablecloths and scarves, some locally made and some imported from China. Only the guides know which. And then down to the Paku Caves, just 25 kilometres short of Luang Prabang, to look at 4,000 Buddhas of all shapes and sizes amassed in the higher and lower caves. We then arrive at Luang Prabang, situated where the Mekong and the Nam Khan meets. With a population now of around 50,000, it was the royal capital and seat of government up to the communist takeover in 1975. Our accommodation is the Sanctuary House. Once home to the Prime Minister, it is a really lovely and distinct hotel with a strong French colonial influence. Just on the outskirts of town, it's quiet and a little haven, but very walkable to the major sites. One of the must-dos is a very early start to join the locals in offering food and alms to the monks. But it's a little cool before dawn and we go to buy our sticky rice and sweets and then take our position on the quiet street in readiness. Then the lines of monks appear. It is a silent and serene experience and we are struck by the simplicity of their commitment. Then off to the market to bear witness to a range of produce set out in neat rows and full of colour. It's the foodstuffs that command our attention. These range from locally caught fish to a delicacy of rat. You can choose it live or have it sautéed. Then later off to visit the Royal Palace complex in the centre of town, where our guide talks in rather hushed tones of the days when the country was a kingdom. It's a showpiece with artefacts of regal living including river transport and the royal garage. Then around town we visit the Wat Yang Thong Temple, originally built in 1539, with over 20 structures in the grounds supporting study and worship. In the afternoon we journey out of town to visit the Kwai Sea waterfalls, a very popular tourist trip, with a gentle walk around turquoise blue pools, with 10 to 15 foot cascades and a larger 180 foot waterfall. It all looked pretty inviting, but only one brave member of our party took the plunge. The following day, the boys and girls separated, with the boys going up country to Nhong Kiao to do some trekking. We do one night in comparative comfort. Before we set out across the rice paddies on our trek and stay in the local village. The going is pretty easy to begin with, and our guide provides all kinds of insights into local nature. And we get some lessons on how to make our own picnic plates out of banana.
Very good.
Very good. Put the food inside.
Yeah, excellent.
One of the joys was making friends with the local kids, where simple games with bottle tops transcends the language barrier.
You do your trick. Can you do your trick? Well, I don't know if that's a trick. Mm.
Then we continue into the hills, taking in the magnificent views and forgetting for a moment the horror of bombing during the Vietnam War. We arrive in the village for our homestay. The huts are pretty basic, without electricity or heating. And the main event is dinner and killing of the duck.
And he had his knife under the duck's throat like that for a while, you see, and then just laughing and everything. And then one of his mates came and put the duck down and just cut his throat in front of us and bled it into a big dish. And Simon, he sort of said, right, he put the duck in boiling water briefly and took it out again.
And then he gave me the duck.
To get the feathers
He had to
out.
pluck the duck.
Plucking the duck.
So another learning experience is followed by a rather cold night with little sleep and an early start, post-sticky rice breakfast and a ramble to the river for our return. It's a really great trip back to Nhong Kiao, with an opportunity to appreciate the countryside as well as sampling some rather interesting colours. From Nhong Kiao, it's a 4-hour drive back to Luang Prabang to spend our last evening in the city and take in some breathtaking views from Mount Fu Si, the 100-metre hill in the middle of town, and a really lovely sunset. And it's time for us to leave Luang Prabang for the next stage in our Glampacking trip, Siem Reap in Cambodia. Join us there in our next film.